Class D. Do animals and robots have souls? Why scientists argue. In the last 2 classes, we went through quite a lot of material. If you had no trouble understanding it all, congratulations! From here, you can go on and learn more about cognitive neuroscience on your own. One way you could do that would be to read research papers. Now, although they might seem a bit dense at first, you should be able to get used to them pretty quickly. Chances are, though, you might have struggled a little bit here and there, but don't feel frustrated. This material is actually pretty hard. Take your time. The challenge is worth it. Now, depending on your background, some of you may find it confusing to have to follow these different arguments back and forth between the globalists and the localists. In philosophy, this kind of dialectical context is actually quite common. But in the basic sciences, materials are often not presented quite like this in the classroom. The reality, though, is that science itself is very much an exercise in debating. Why? Well, because as you might be able to tell, most studies are not definitive. They have limitations, and there are many different ways to interpret the same results. The whole point of going into this level of detail these past few classes is to encourage you to see how science really works. And this is not unique to consciousness research or cognitive neuroscience in general. This is just how science is. They say that the devil is in the details, but the details are the good stuff. They're our bread and butter. That's where the science really happens. Much of it is painstaking hard work, requiring patience and a willingness to think hard, often for a very long time. Magical genius is overrated. Remember Larry Weisskranz? Besides coining the term blindsight, he made many other important contributions to the science of consciousness. But above all else, he trained and inspired a whole generation of researchers, establishing a scientific culture that values imagination just as much as rigor. He once said, "One way of dealing with errors is to have an enemy." It's only through debate that we can learn so much about the strengths and weaknesses of the differing viewpoints. In science, absolute truths are rare. One theory might be only slightly better than another in terms of its ability to account for certain facts. Each view has its pros and cons, and it is only through debate that we can decide which views are ever so slightly superior. But of course, this is not to say that we treat our opponents like our enemies, although sometimes the debates do get heated. But like a boxer hoping to improve her skills, we spar to learn more, not to hurt the other person. Oftentimes, our sparring partners are our best friends. So what have we learned from the debates between the global versus local viewpoint on consciousness? Let's try to take stock and, in particular, address the final of the 4 questions, which is, what other creatures besides us could be conscious? As you'll see, this may be the hardest of the 4 questions.